All right, so the second network, CBS, we're going alphabetically, you guys. We're really clever. Really their only new mid-season show is Golden
That
Boy.
they're showing us.
That they're airing. Yeah.
Right, we don't know
Yeah,
if
we
that
don't
one's
know.
showing.
But,
Yes.
okay, Golden Boy. And honestly, I mean, it's not a huge departure for them because it's, another police drama. It's not as procedural as some of theirs are. But I will say that I love the cast. I love just about everybody in the cast. Theo James, I don't really watch BBC America, but I watched it when he had Bedlam on that channel, and Holt, who was on the FX boxing drama recently, and there's just Kevin Alejandro from Southland. Like, it's a really great overall cast, but I find every single character so completely unlikable. I don't want to watch it. And part of the problem is, Theo's character is this like young, hotshot, uniform cop when we meet him, and then we find out in the pilot, we flash forward in time to learn how far he advances in such a short amount of time. That he's the youngest police commissioner, and part of the issue is he's such a terrible, pompous, like entitled baby that I don't want to see him get that position. So to know that the entire series is going to be watching him grow into that position, maybe he'll mature and become a better person, maybe he won't, but I don't think he deserves it, so I don't want to watch it.
Right.
And it's making it really hard because I like everyone and I'd like to see them be on TV for a while, but just not in this show. Like, I just expected so much more. Like, in the fall we talked about disappointing dramas, and I would call this a disappointing drama. Like, I wanted a lot from it, and I just did not like what I got at all. I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things where I think, of the two of us, I think I like procedurals more than you do. Which,
but regardless of that.
No, but even still, when I was watching it, I was watching that pilot, and I watched it relatively recently, and I was just so bored. Like, and and that's not I mean, I don't even know why, and that's kind of frustrating. It's a show that I feel like I should like. It's forgetting, I do like the vast majority of the cast. I think it's an interesting premise because there are so many story things that writers have to make up on the fly as they're creating a television series, or that they end up creating on the fly as they're creating a television series. Because, you and I hear all the time, shows are organic. They're living, breathing.
Well, they are.
Right, yes. But we hear that all the time. And by doing this, and they've set up things in the pilot.
Right. That have to happen.
Where now they have to happen in the span of the series if it lasts.
Right.
And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, if the series, say if it does okay for CBS, but not great, and if it only lasts, say, 4 years instead of the number of years they set up in the pilot to get from point A to point B, it's one of those things where it's like, I always hesitate when they have such a strict, severe timeline, where it's like, okay, how much, I mean, if you don't know if this is going to last 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, 15 years, CBS, you never know.
Right, and how do you parcel out your story?
How do you parcel out your story? And so it's one of the, I mean, I think, I actually did like a couple of characters, which might have been more my affection for the actors than anything else. But yeah, it's something I'll probably watch more of, because I feel like mid-season there are so few shows that I actually want to watch, that I feel like this one I can kind of give a little bit more room to grow. But I feel like in terms of procedurals, you have to hook it with a good first case. Like, I mean, at the very least, if you're going to be a procedural, yes, you should have these characters. You should do this and that.
I will say that I like that they developed the characters so that it's not just a procedural.
Right.
I mean, I'll give them credit.
Yeah. And I like the characters far more than I like the procedural aspect. But because it's CBS, and because it seems like they do want to be a procedural, case of the week kind of a thing, as this guy does go on his journey, I was just sitting there like watching this case, and I'm like, why should, like, there's nothing about it that drew me, nothing that I cared.
Yeah,
Whereas like with every procedural that I've watched in the past, when I look at the pilot, that case has drawn me in.
Yeah.
Whether it was, predictable or not, it at least had something about it that drew me in, and this one didn't, and I was just like, that's not fun.
Right. Well, I will say that I do feel like the case was kind of an afterthought.
Oh, yeah.
Like, in a lot of procedural pilots, straight procedural pilots, they use the case and the way that the case is solved to show off the character quirks.
Yes.
Whereas this one, it was just kind of separate. So that's part of my problem with the show, is I just don't feel like it's all that well written. I just think that it's kind of a mess overall. And, you were talking about the timelines, and that honestly was one of my biggest criticisms of the pilot itself, was not thinking about where it was going to go, because to be honest, I don't think I'm going to give it another shot to see where it goes, but just in the pilot itself, how they jump forward so you know exactly where he gets, and then at the end of the pilot, they jump forward again to hear those bullet points of, and so it was all exposition, and it's all like, well, we're telling you exactly what's coming and why you should want to stick around to see these things happen. And I'm like, but I don't, because it's not organic.
Yeah.
Because now I'm anticipating something that may not be earned, but it's a checkpoint you need to get to.
Right.
And I don't like this guy. And like, why would I want to see him do any of these things that are going to paint him in a hero's light?
Right.
If I don't like him, and I think he's just another one of those cops that gives everybody else a bad name. So,
Yeah, I mean, and it was one of those things where I was, it's one of those shows where you have to have a massive amount of trust and faith these actors won't bolt at certain points, and it's like you kind of have to, if for instance, we don't really touch upon his personal life in the future, but like, I was thinking,
that's
like,
a good
I wondered
point.
if there was like a wedding ring or anything like that. Like it feels like there's so much they're trying to bite off, and I'm just not sure if they've achieved it. And I wish it was better, and that's kind of
I do too. To be honest with you,
Because,
I really wanted to like it. And oddly, I liked the script when I read the script,
Yeah.
because I didn't on the page, some of the characters didn't seem as unlikable. I feel like it was not because of the actors, but I feel like that was kind of a note, was to
make them tougher.
you
grittier,
got to
or
make
whatever.
him look better by making the people around him look worse. And
Yeah.
I think that if that was intentional, it was a huge misstep. And if it's not intentional, that's what came across to me. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I wanted to like it so much more than I did.
I also-
Another disappointing drama for me.
I also have a major like twitch whenever reporters are
Oh,
on screen,
yeah.
because I don't know if you've noticed this, but reporters tend to be absolutely atrocious people on television
Well,
shows.
some are. Let's be honest.
Some people are
especially
atrocious
in
in
the city
real
beat,
life.
the city crime beat, the city beat.
Right.
Like those are tough people.
Yeah, and I'm not
So-
saying there aren't some really atrocious people. Who
But
are
I know what
reporters,
you're saying.
But it's
They-
like
they
it's a
kinda jag
stereotype
at- yeah, they
that
dig
I
at
feel like
you.
that there's really never any other layer to. Like there
No, yeah.
aren't really any good reporters, and
No.
it's like whenever I see a reporter, I'm like, okay, so how badly is this person gonna
Right.
just screw up everything? And
Yeah, and
stupid
I will say
reporters.
something else that I just want to point out. When you guys watch Golden Boy, if you guys watch it, let me know if you think it felt like a period piece, because I spent the first chunk of the pilot thinking it was set in the 80s. Legitimately. I don't know what it was.
No, I
I don't know what it was. It was the station looks really old.
Yeah, I
the,
will
the
say-
suits, they're like the way that they dress. I'm
No,
like, people don't really.
you're not
cops in
wrong.
New York City don't really dress like that. Like we've come, even especially TV cops.
Right.
We've come to see them flashier.
I mean, look, I watched me some
So-
SVU. I watched
right.
me some Castle,
Right.
all
So
set in
I'm
New
just
York,
saying,
and
like,
it does
we-
not fit in.
It does not. So I was very distracted by it, and I don't know if anybody else will be, but
Well,
I
mean,
was.
but to be fair, well, not 80s, but it could be slightly in the.
it's not, because
Is it
at
it-
the end when they're flashing forward.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil this,
No, no,
but
no.
you know how they flash forward when what they show the thing being built in the window.
Oh, I
This
didn't-
might be a major
Oh,
spoiler.
yes, okay.
That's how I, and
Okay,
that's how
yeah.
I was like, finally, I was like, oh, there was something else earlier, an iPhone or something that
No,
made it
there's
obvious.
technology that wasn't
Right,
that wasn't so.
but that was at the end. I was like, well, there's a finite window.
Yeah.
So
Okay, yeah,
it's
right.
either now or the future, which is even worse. So
in
you
the
know,
future, well, maybe.
In the
maybe-
future, we go back to the
I was
80s,
maybe
guys.
Carrie Diaries inspires 80s fashions to come back all over.
it might, and that might be okay, but I don't know that your linoleum would be anyway.